Robots Radio presents.
You're listening to the Dungeons & Dragons Lorecast, the best way for everyone from experienced dungeon masters to those curious about D&D to learn more about the worlds, creatures, and lore of Dungeons & Dragons. Adventurers, on the other side of this microphone, listening on speakers, and also listening on speakers while looking at us with your eyeballs live on stream right now, welcome back to the Dungeons & Dragons Lorecast. I am your host, Tom, or Robots, as I like to go on the internet when I'm playing video games and stuff, and I'm here with my regular host, my regular co-host here, my buddy, Stuart, Eternal
Hello.
Tower Dweller.
Everybody. I hope you're all well.
Yeah.
Tower Dweller. I like that.
We are now Tower Dwellers.
Nice connection. Makes a nice connection to Fallout there. I think that's a good one.
Tower Dwellers, we're stuck in. It's almost like this is our vault, but it's a magical tower instead of a vault.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And our overseer is our friend downstairs.
Megodius. Yeah, he's the overseer. This might be his tower. We really don't know a whole lot about him.
And we suspect that he's lying to us as well, so that really does connect with a lot of the overseers.
There you go, yeah. And who knows? Who knows? We can see through these little slits in the windows. There might be the end of the world happening out there. We don't really know. We don't really know. But you know what we do know, Stuart? We know about Bugbears. And let me just start this episode off because we're going to be talking about Bugbears. And I am going to pose the most important question. Bugbears, neither bug nor bear. Discuss.
Discuss. And that's what we're going to do today. To a larger or smaller extent. Bugbears.
Bugbears.
You may have heard the term bugbear before. Because bugbear is a term people use that's a cause of obsessive fear, anxiety, or irritation. You know, it's their bug to bear, or they're one of my bugbears. Okay.
Oh, is that where it comes from? Is that it?
Kind of.
It's like it's a linguistics thing.
There is some linguistics thing. So in like the in folklore in some parts of the world, a bugbear is it's like considered a goblin, and it's like this creature that comes to get you at nighttime. It also has a connection. I'll just read this directly. Okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
Its name is derived from the Middle English word bouge, B-U-G-G-E, boogie. We'll get there.
Boogie. So booger.
Yes.
Booger bear?
A frightening thing, or perhaps an old Welsh word, bwg, B-W-G, evil spirit or goblin, and the old Scots boggle or goblin, and it is probably also English for boogeyman.
Oh, so boogie, boggle, bugaboo, all of these things are connected. So like if I am boggled, it's because I am disturbed by something, right? Something's
so
bad.
The etymology is all connected back there.
Boogeyman.
But that's that really comes into what bugbears are. They're these great big. They're different to the little goblins we talked about last week.
Right.
Okay.
Can I call them booger bears? I want to call them booger bears from now on.
Go for it. Okay. I give you permission.
All right.
I'm the lore master here, so that's fine.
Right. Well, thank you, Lore Master. So I'm sorry, I won't interrupt you anymore. Booger bears, go on.
So booger bears, resemble hairy feral goblins. They're like 7 foot tall or 2 meters tall.
Oh, so
really,
they're not
really
cute.
big.
Because when I think of like a booger bear, I'm like, oh, it's a cute little booger bear.
No.
Like a little dude you kind of keep with you, like a little dog.
They're terrifying.
Almost like an Ewok.
They're literally folklore that is used to terrify children. So they're big, scary. They get their name a little bit from how what their noses and claws look like. It's because they're similar to that of a bear. But they're big, strong, muscular brutes. Okay, that often wear. Their claws aren't really sharp or useful in combat, so they often wear armor and have weapons, but most of the time that's stuff that they've stolen.
Kind of like our nails, like our human nails aren't like you're not going to claw somebody to death with your fingernails. They'll snap before that even happens, even if they were long.
Like a small dog's nails, like a dog's nails, whilst they might scratch you, they're not super dangerous.
Right. Unless you're like a ant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're these big guys. But whilst they're big, they actually have an affinity to stealth, so they can move really quietly, and they use this to their advantage to ambush people. So slinking through the night and attacking those that wander too far, and usually taking their heads, or I should say, eating them as well. Okay, they survive by raiding and hunting, but are fond of setting ambushes and fleeing when outmatched. They're not interested in losing. They want to get by. Their heads are considered a prize, which they use to sort of get curry favor with their gods. And when they're not in battle or out hunting, they are lazing about, resting, sleeping. They don't really get out and about. They're not industrious. They're not really likely to be engaged in any sort of crafting or artistic pursuits. They are big, brutish louts. I think last episode we compared them to your teenage sibling. Okay, in the the goblinoid family, they are the teenage sibling that mopes around, sleeps, gets angry, breaks stuff every now and then, and eats a lot. Okay,
right.
And they tend to bully weaker creatures into doing what they want them to do. Okay, so
they're like the big thugs of the like goblin kin. They're like
exactly
the
right. And
lazy
in goblin
thuggish
society,
bullies.
Yeah, that's right. And they do that so they can take it easy. So if they've got a group of smaller goblinoids or goblins on there who are scared of them and they're working for them, those little goblins can go get food for them and whatnot, and they'll just threaten them and beat them up and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, they're 7 freaking foot tall. I mean, the little goblin guys are, these things are giants compared to them.
And goblins are scared sort of creatures. They're not brave. They're cunning, but they're not brave, and they sort of know that if they want to survive, they better just do what the bugbear says.
I've got a picture for everyone on screen here while we're chatting about this. It's pretty big. It's going to cover up our faces, but just for you guys to get a sense of like what a bugbear might look like. It's pretty vicious. Imagine. Okay, so look at this image, right? Imagine this thing's 7 feet tall. Stuart's a big guy. Stuart probably comes up to this thing's shoulder at the most. Yeah, that's a big dude. Big dude.
Probably armpit. I mean, I'm 6'1".
Yeah, I mean, you got a whole foot between the top of your head and the top of this guy's head, right? So yeah, like the lower part of the shoulder, the armpit area. I would be even smaller than that. Yeah, you're not gonna mess with this dude.
And they're huge. We'll talk about like their in-game benefits in a minute. But they're big, brutish things. They're lazy. They even when they've been called into a goblinoid host. So when Maglubiet has summoned them to fight as a host, they'll often other goblinoids, usually hobgoblins, will have to like go and wake them up from naps and it'll bribe them into doing what they have to do. They really embody laziness, and they're found usually not solitary. They have a gang type mentality, so you might find a couple of bugbears working together, helps them to do ambushing and things like that. Sometimes if they need to, they'll be in much larger parties, but usually it's a much smaller sort of group of bugbears that get around, and sometimes those bugbears will have things like rats or wolves working for them, as well as working for them that they've trained, because they are hunters, or they'll have a little group of goblins that they have working for them to do what they want to do. And this all connects very closely to their gods. So Maglubiet is the leader of the goblinoid pantheon, but he has let a few of these goblinoids have their own gods. And so they worship two deities who are brothers, which is different for the other goblinoid gods, Hrugrek and Grankle.
Bless you.
Okay. Hrugrek and Grankle. Okay. Hrugrek is... Yeah.
Excuse me.
He sounds like you've got something stuck in your throat.
Yeah.
Hrugrek is fearsome elder sibling and possessed legendary might and prowess in battle. Bugbears believe their strength and bravery came from him. Cunning Grunkle is the younger one, and in the stories Bugbears tell, he gifted them with stealth, but in return sapped their vigor. So Bugbears sleep in his stead while he remains eternally alert and awake. So they...
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So they try and for them to live out what their gods want, they be brutish and violent in battle, and then they're super lazy because that's what Grunkle wants. Grunkle wants them to...
Grunkle sapped out their energy. And
that's why they're lazy.
That's why they're just sleepy. Yeah. That's what I'm going to... I now have an excuse for when I'm feeling all sleepy and lazy. Like, I gotta get up, gotta take care of some stuff today, but Grunkle, or whatever his name is, sapped my energy out, so I'm just doing what my gods want.
And that's what the gods want, and they'll reward them for that. So according to Bugbear legends, Hrugrek and Grunkle often fight alongside each other, preying upon all those encounter as their right as superior warriors. Hrugrek takes the heads of those he kills and puts them on spikes in his den, where they utter pleas for mercy. Grunkle watches over Hrugrek.
Wait. Takes the heads, puts them on spikes, and then they still can utter pleas of mercy?
Yeah.
So
it gets weirder.
Keeps them animated? Like he keeps the heads alive.
Mm-hmm.
Including the voice box, which is down here in your throat. So you must actually like cleave that off very low.
I imagine not all of them are super coherent, and he can...
Please. Help. That sounds like terrible decorations for your room. Anyway, go on.
It is. Oh, they're useful though, so it becomes useful. So Grunkle, whilst he has that vigor because he's sapped all the energy from the bugbears, he watches over Hrugrek. However, if he has to be elsewhere, he whispers commands to the severed heads to wake Hrugrek if danger threatens him. So he sets the heads up as little alarms just in case someone comes to get Hrugrek. So these two brothers are out there just wrecking stuff and looking after each other. They're like, you know, they're down for each other.
It's like a buddy cop movie.
Bros.
We need to do like a buddy cop movie about these two guys.
A buddy cop movie. Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
So the Bugbears admire the qualities of both brothers. Because of Hrugrek, they consider bravery and physical superiority their natural state. And thanks to Grunkle, they use their size and strength to work as stealthy assassins rather than blundering around like ogres. Bullying, murder, and engaging in battle are all holy acts for bugbears. Attacking unsuspecting creatures and defeating foes in open battle are seen as acts of worship, in the same way that dwarves consider metalsmithing to be sacred for Moradin. So just by being bugbears, so smashing shit up, and we'll bleep that out.
Whatever. Close, whatever.
You know, by wrecking stuff and sleeping and being lazy. Maybe not sleeping around.
I don't think their gods are into that as much, around. But got it. Yeah. Laying around.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
Dungeons and Dragons Lorecast After Dark. Coming to you late. This is the late show.
And it's Stuart's. This is the teacher lack of sleep that's causing a ruckus in my brain. There are, however, two other gods that the bugbears both recognize, but it's a slightly different. Whilst they look at Hrugrek and Grankle as their inspiration, there is Maglubiet and another one called Skigoret that they sort of disdain and fear. So Maglubiet, who we talked about last episode, is the leader of the goblinoid pantheon, forced both brothers to submit to his rule. But instead of killing them, he showed mercy and even honored them in a way by setting them free, but under his control, so that bugbears could continue to employ their talents against his enemies. Bugbears understand that by venerating Hugrek and Grunkle, they also give tribute to Maglubiet, even though they don't openly pay homage to their overlord. When bugbears are called to join a host, bugbears believe Maglubiet has again corralled the brothers into a divine battle, and they honor their gods by following suit.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't necessarily worship Maglubiet, and they know that Maglubiet destroyed all the others in the pantheon, and they just let these two go. And these two, it was like they kind of said, look, Maglubiet was like, look, you don't have to die, and you don't have to swear fealty to me. You can go off and do what you want, but when it's time to fight, you're coming, okay? You just go do what you do, and your bugbear friends will do the other one. Now, this is where we get a bit meta, because then we have Skigaret. Now, Skigaret is the bugbear version of the boogeyman. So this is the boogeyman's boogeyman.
What? Wait. So this is the boogie bear? This is the booger bear. Booger bear, the boogie,
Yes.
the booger bear boogeyman.
We are deep in boogie.
We have so much boogie. This has turned into a 70s dance party right here.
Yeah, that's right. It is boogie nights.
It's boogie nights.
That's right. Marky Mark's about to come through in platform shoes.
Yes. This is again turning into late night adults only
that's right.
session of Dungeons and Dragons Lorecast.
Welcome back. We're talking about bugbears and boogie nights.
Bugbears and boogie nights. Get your boogie on, wear some short pants, and follow me out on the dance floor, baby.
So Skigaret is hateful and terrifying to bugbears and to many others. Okay, they don't really speak his name. They're nothing above a whisper. It's not someone that you want to talk about. Skigaret's influence manifests at times when bugbears are forced to act in a cowardly fashion. A bugbear knows or feels itself to be in mortal danger, is affected by a form of madness, and will do anything, including trying to flee, in order to stay alive. Bugbears believe that this feeling of fear comes from being possessed by Skigaret, and they don't relish the experience. After the madness has passed, bugbears don't dwell on things that are done in the presence of Skigaret. Talking about such acts might call him back. So, like, they might find themselves in a situation where they're outmatched or outnumbered, and this feeling of fear comes into them. And that is Skigaret taking control. And because they have fight or flight reactions, just like humans do, that either manifests in them running away or manifests in them just going absolutely berserk and fighting until their very last breath to get out of the situation they're in. But then afterwards, they don't want to talk about it, because if you talk about it, Skigaret is going to come back.
Okay. You never mention Fight Club. Yeah, this is like rule number one. Don't talk about Fight Club. Okay. Got it.
Talk about Skigaret.
Yeah.
So so all of these gods, except for Maglubiet, I suppose, but Skigaret, Hugrek, and Grankle are connected directly to the behaviors and the cultures of bugbears. Okay, and that's something that's really interesting when you are doing world building. Okay, if you're doing world building and you want to start your own campaign and build your own world, this is something you can think about, because gods exist because the people that live on the material plane have a culture that they've based that around. Okay. I know the stories say that the gods created everything, but let's just say that that's not the case. People create gods, and that this is a good way of highlighting what culture is. Okay, so you can highlight what's important to the people, and there will be a god for that.
Right.
Something you can do thinking about creating your own stuff. So yeah, they don't have any shamans or priests. Okay, they no one needs to tell them what their god wants. They know that their gods want them to fight and want them to move stealthily and attack, and to lay about when they don't need to. Bugbears worship their gods simply by preying on other creatures, using no other sort of ceremony to show obedience to them, with one exception.
Mm-hmm.
In an act of worship that also sometimes attracts favorable attention from their gods, bugbears sever the heads of defeated foes, cut away or stitch open the eyelids, and leave their mouths hanging open. Content warning, it's a bit gross. Sorry, I've made the warning afterwards, but anyway.
It's
the
okay.
heads are then placed on...
I've got a picture. One of the bugbears has a head hanging from its waist. You can see it here in the image on the screen.
And so heads are often placed on spikes or hung from cords around a bugbear den. The heads themselves are trophies that honor Hughrek, and their ever-staring eyes are a homage to Sleepless Grunkle. So they do these little things to... Yeah.
That's pretty dark.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. So bugbears are not... I mean, they're evil creatures.
So they're not cute. They're not like little Ewoks. They're not your Ewok buddy.
No, they're big, brutish things, and that shows through in the mechanics of them as well. So if you want to use bugbears, they're only challenge rating 1, so that's right down near the bottom. They still can kill a first level adventurer with one hit if they roll well. So that's something to be wary
Makes
of.
Sense.
But if you
yeah,
and they're great big things that usually use a big club or a morning star. And they want to move with stealth. So they even have a surprise attack, which means that if they hit a creature in the first round of combat whilst sneaking, they do an extra 2d6 damage on top of whatever weapon they're using. Mm-hmm. And because they're so big, they have this other benefit called Brute. So whatever melee weapon they're using...
Is it cologne?
Pardon?
Is it Brute cologne?
Is it cologne?
Do they smell Brute? That's a cologne. Do they smell real good?
Yes, it is. I remember Brute. Again, why are you casting back to the 90s all the time, man?
I don't know, man. It's my brain is just stuck there lately. You want to hear? Oh, wait. Side note. Something weird. I get migraines. This is when I talk about this on some of the shows. Like I'm a migraine person, right? You get them. You don't know why you get them. Been dealing with it for a while. Yep. I'm on a certain medication, which of course messes with your brain chemistry. I have been having the weirdest dreams from like 20 some years ago, where it's like,
really?
Yeah, it's like it's unlocking things in my memory, and I'm like back with like people I knew in high school or guys I toured in a band with.
Wow.
and like weird crap is happening. Like, yeah, it's weird. But anyway, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm tapping into that part of my my memory.
Yeah, maybe. It's funny how I used to smoke cigarettes, and I took a drug called Champix to help me quit. Uh-huh. And the idea with that is that you take the drugs every day. I think it was there. I can't remember now. It was years ago. But you take it every day, and you keep smoking, and you set a quit date. But what happens is it creates a chemical effect that makes cigarettes taste bad and make you feel sort of ill whenever you smoke. So usually what happens is people stop smoking before they get to their quit date.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like, oh, this is gross. This isn't even pleasurable anymore. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. And it's actually funny. The way they found this drug was because it was a test sample for, I can't remember which mental illness it was, but for someone who it was for people that had some imbalance. And the common thread that came back was that all these people were quitting smoking, and they were like, huh. So they tweaked the drug a little bit and then created this drug to help you quit smoking. Mm-hmm. And I had the same thing, man, like the most insane dreams. I'd wake up every morning like, what was that? And it was and it actually impacted my temper as well. I got really like a real angry while I was doing that.
You get real angry.
Angry.
Yeah, really it hasn't affected my mood, I don't think. But yeah, I like very intense dreams. I wake up and have that, like, it's been a long time since this is the After Dark episode. I'm a grown ass adult man, right? Like, it's been a long time since I've had like nightmares where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I need to go cuddle with my parents in their bed. Like, it's been years. Yeah. And like, even if I have a scary dream, I just wake up and go, that was not pleasant, but whatever, go back to bed. It's just a dream, right? But like, yeah, these dreams, even if they're unpleasant, sometimes they're just kind of stressful, but they feel very real. Like they're in a way that like dreams have not felt like that in a long time. Anyway, we've kind of gone off the rails here. Let's get back to our Bugbear friends.
It's almost as if you've got some sort of bugbear that's you have to deal with.
Yeah, I got a Bugbear in my head. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, they're brutes, meaning that when they use a melee weapon, they get to add an extra die of damage of whatever it is. So if they've got a short sword and it's 1d6, they roll 2d6. If they've got a Morning Star, which is 1d8, they roll 2d8.
Wow.
So it is possible that if you were to hit a first level adventurer with a surprise attack and a Morning Star, that you would do 2d8 plus 2d6 points of damage. So like 16.
It's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid roll.
It's a lot.
I mean, it could
16,
be
20,
a 3, but it could also be like, whatever that comes out to. If you add it all up, a 20.
Yeah, so super dangerous. So if you want to run them, they're really cool as like a low-level adventuring party boss. Mm-hmm. So you might start off with goblins or giant rats. The progression that I've used before is a few giant rats and like maybe 4 or 5 giant rats and a couple of goblins. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the next progression, because they're level 2 maybe, is a collection of goblins. And then by the time they get to level 3, it might be 2 bugbear brothers that are trying to, live out and embody their gods.
They're collecting heads for their bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And they 2 bugbears is a formidable combat, but it's they're cool.
Yeah.
I think that's all I've got about
our Bugbear friends.
Bugbears.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So Bugbears are our mid-tier, and we'll have hobgoblins next week.
Hobgoblins, not like the one from Spider-Man, because that's different.
I have to do a bit more research about that and see what the connections are. But I like that a lot of the monsters in D&D do come from some sort of folklore or mythology. Mm-hmm. So there are some connections there. We didn't actually talk about goblin folklore last episode, but that's all right. Hobgoblins, we will.
We can reference it a little bit next episode. All right, cool. Well, let's move into the middle of the show. All right, guys, we are in the middle of the show. It is very middle-y in here, and we have exciting news. Do not skip over the middle of the show this week, because I know some of you guys do, and it's okay. I get it. You just want to move on to you just want to get to the rest of the content. I get it. But we all have to be here for this big announcement, because we announced last week that we started a Patreon, and this week we have our very first patron, Pirate Peter, signed up. Tier 3 is going to be getting our extra episodes every month, is going to be able to hear our once we actually get Tier 4 patrons who are going to join us monthly on our own adventure, we'll be able to listen to that adventure. And as a Tier 3 patron, Pirate Peter, you can join us at the end of the month on an episode of this show live and talk to us about Dungeons and Dragons. And that's going to be super cool. So we'll set up we'll communicate with you. Chances are, we'll try to stick to this time frame if at all possible. I know this is pretty late for where you live, so we might have to do a pre-recording or something, but we'll do our best to keep this there. And if anybody else is interested in signing up on the Patreon, go check it out. Patreon.com/ I believe it's D&D Lorecast is the short name. It's in the show notes if you want to look that up. And there's a bunch of different tiers you can sign up and get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including things like guesting on the show and getting to join us for our own D&D monthly game. And that's super fun. I can't wait for us to get into that. I don't know how long it'll be till we...
excited about that.
Yeah, I don't know how long it'll be till we get people signing up for that. But even once we have our first member, we can set off on an adventure. Stuart's going to design something for us. I'll be one of the adventurers. He'll be DMing. Our first patron at that tier can join us on the adventure, and then we'll expand the party as we go, and we'll turn it into our own little series. And you'll get to listen to it if you are a patron, which is super cool. So yeah, go check that out. Check out the different tiers. There's all sorts of fun rewards. We will be, continuing to expand stuff. The other thing is that Stuart did a patron only episode about a really cool sword. You want to tell them about that, Stuart?
Yeah, I did a little patron episode about Vorpal swords. So I woke up very early this morning and I was like, I want to do a little bonus thing for our patrons. And so I was looking at something that's small, but still a part of D&D lore, and so I picked the Vorpal sword, and in that little episode, goes for about 10 minutes. I look at what that does in game.
Yeah.
what it does in game and where it comes from and how you might use it and all that sort of stuff. And that'll be something new every couple of weeks, but at least every month there'll be a little bonus episode for our patrons.
Yeah, and then you'll also get to listen to us play Dungeons and Dragons too. So lots of fun stuff on there. Go check it out. It does help support us and make sure that we can keep providing this fun, entertaining, and informative content for you guys. Also, another way to help support us is to check out our sponsors. If you look in the show notes, there are a list of sponsors. These are sponsors for all the shows on the Robots Radio Network. So whether you're into Loot Crate or Gamefly and want to rent movies and games, or you want to buy games from Green Man Gaming, or you want to protect your internet with NordVPN, you can click one of the links and there are all sorts of different deals you can get on those. I'll call out the NordVPN one right now because it is a significant deal. You get 68% off purchasing NordVPN in order to browse safely from your computer. It's a huge deal. If you click the link in the show notes, and it's a service provider that is legitimate. It's not just some free VPN where you don't know whose connection you're going through and if they're, checking your data while you do it, that sort of thing. This is a legitimate.
I have NordVPN.
Yeah, do you?
NordVPN is good. Yeah.
Yep. So legitimate provider, 68% off. Huge deal. Click the link in the show notes. Go check it out. It might be something you're interested in. All right, Stuart, let's move on to the rest of the show. So, Stuart, I have another item. I had some inspiration this week because where did this come from? I'm wondering where the inspiration came from because it may have something to do with watching. Have you seen the Lovecraft County show? No,
I haven't.
On HBO.
I really want to.
I need to. Really weird show. And just a quick little side note here. Go check it out. It's a really weird show. It has to do with paranormal stuff. Super weird. It's set in the 1950s in very racist America. From the perspective of a black community, and specifically the main characters are all black, and having to deal with racism in the United States and all of those kinds of things. So right from the first episode, you get a real sense of like what it must have been like to live in that world at the time. And it is kind of startling. It really does pull you into this in a very realistic kind of way. And then things just go like crazy, like the show just moves. Each episode has it's like an hour long, but it's like it could be its own little movie with tons of things happen. The second episode, they set up the second episode in the first episode, and by the beginning of the first episode, I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be the setting for the rest of the season. These are going to be some of the the villains or the other characters that we're going to just blows through it. It's I don't know. It is a really interesting and different kind of show, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Go check it out. Very cool stuff. So normal 1950s America. Yes. Oh, it was very, very much built on actual real world situations and then throws the paranormal in on top of it, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so something about that, that community, Lovecraft takes, some of the Lovecraftian stuff takes place in like Louisiana. You've got like the occult and voodoo and those kinds of things. And it hasn't really showed up too much of that kind of stuff in the show yet, but I think that's where my mind was going. And so I was thinking voodoo dolls, right? Voodoo dolls, cool, interesting items. You can do things to the dolls. It affects another person. And I was like, what happens if you take and you invert the voodoo doll? You have like a reverse voodoo doll. And so our item for this week is the reverse voodoo doll. And the idea here is you would get this item and they come in different flavors. They're different potencies. There's like a base level, a mid level, and a high level voodoo doll, right? So let's say you get the base level voodoo doll. You tie it to a person. In fact, whoever happens to be holding it at the time, it is inherently tied to. So maybe you hold on to the voodoo doll. And what the voodoo doll does is it remembers whatever spell or attack or whatever occurs to the person holding it. So if you get attacked by a bugbear and the bugbear smashes you with his big old club for 13 damage, the voodoo doll remembers that. You still take damage from it, but the voodoo doll remembers it. And it will store that one that one action, that one attack in the voodoo doll until it moves to the next person. And when it moves to the next person, it applies that damage and the effects of whatever happened to the original person to the next person. So it's like it absorbs it and carries it with it. So you could intentionally do something to yourself and then apply it to somebody else by handing them the voodoo doll. You could hold on to the voodoo doll in combat and take whatever is happening to you and then apply that back to the enemy by depositing the voodoo doll on their person. There's lots of different things you could do here. If it's magic spells, whatever the effects of the magic spell are, stays within the voodoo doll and then is again applied when passed on to somebody else. That's just the tier 1.
Okay. That's tier 1.
That's tier 1. Tier 2 can store the first 2 actions or effects or combat damage or whatever that applies to the individual.
Yeah.
Tier 3 is 3. So you could put this on, say, a boss enemy, hit it with like let's say your level 7 wizard just like trounces the thing with like 60 damage with some sort of crazy spell. And then you hit it with something else and then you hit it with something else and it dies. And then you take the voodoo doll off the body and it would apply to whoever next touches it, right? So if you convince another enemy to pick up the voodoo doll, then that damage would then chain and apply to the next enemy, right? Or
excellent.
Right. Or you're in combat and your tanky character takes a bunch of hits and then is now close up to another enemy and then shoves the voodoo doll like in their armor or something, and then all of a sudden boom 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 boom, all of those hits just like collapse and hit the other character. Now you could also do things like teleports. You could teleport somewhere and then carry the teleport onto somebody else. There's all sorts of creative ways you could use this. But there is a risk reward. Anything like you could intentionally do this. You could, for example, give this to your tanky character, specifically cast spells on that character in order to like prime the voodoo doll, and then rest. The character heals themselves, and then or it takes a potion or whatever, and then you move on to the next combat or the next situation, or maybe you're trying to manipulate somebody you're talking to. So you cast spells on somebody, and then those spells exist in the voodoo doll, and then you unleash them on the person that you're trying to manipulate or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. So I'm envisaging a tank going down or like a fireball exploding in a room.
Yeah.
And then, if it might be the party that set off the fireball, or it might be the enemies, and they come in to clean up, and there's just one dude laying on the ground with a doll in their hand. And they're like, what is this? Pick it up. Another fireball.
Yeah, another fireball. Just right. But then it would chain. The next person who picks it up would then also get the fireball.
And it waits until someone survives it, I guess.
Right.
And then once they've survived it, that can change.
Right. So if you survive it, then maybe the next thing that happens to that person then clears it and replaces it with something else. Right.
Yeah. I like the idea of priming the tank. So the tank's front line and they're doing what they got to do and it's not working. So they just slip the
voodoo doll,
down their shoe, like their opponent's shoe, or under their armor, like you said.
They grapple with them and then stuff it down their shirt. Like just like take that. Yeah.
That's cool. I wonder if you could set up I wonder if you got 2 of them, could we set up a loop?
Yeah, maybe. Just between two people, and then it's like fireball. It's just like this until both of them are just dead. And then you're like, okay, nobody ever touch those dolls again. They're cursed. But you could design a campaign around this. You could have, like you were saying, a situation where you have like a room of killed people. A house that's burned down and this room of like bodies, and one of them has a doll on it. And like the locals are like, that place is cursed. Everyone goes in there. Everyone who goes in there dies, and the place catches on fire again. We don't understand what's happening, right? And it's all tied to this doll that's like unleashing a spell every time someone else picks it up. So it appears to be cursed. And then once the party picks it up and then survives it, they maybe come to start understanding what the doll actually does.
Yeah. I like it. I like it, Tom. You've done it again, my friend. You've got a creative. We should really work on
Our
something.
book. Yeah. I need to write these down.
Yeah.
I haven't been adding them to our list, but that should be something else we put on the Patreon. Is like a full access to like the full descriptions of all of these, so that they can use them.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah,
that is probably a good idea. I might start working on that. I think I should start working on that, in fact. That sounds awesome. I really love that idea. I like the idea of using it as a either the MacGuffin for the adventure or the source of the adventure. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that this is one of those things that could eventually be overly powerful, especially if it is carrying for 3 different spells and they're like extremely devastating.
And the more people play with them as well, they'll just get more
creative
ideas and ask more questions. Players always ask questions. Always.
Like, what if I jump off this 500-story building and crash to my death? How much damage would that give me? Well, okay, let's calculate it. Okay, it's this much damage. Like, all right, what if you resurrect me and then I hand someone the doll? Are they just like obliterated? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Can I? The classic question. Can I do this? Can I do that? Yeah, you can try. Damn players.
Yeah, I love when people come up with things that don't make sense in the logic of the game or in the logic of the world. And it's like, like, I'll tell that person this thing, and it's like, well, what did you expect to happen? Like, okay, you told them.
I've got the school D&D club, and yesterday in the club, there's 2 new players who've come along, and the other tables they're in the middle of games, so I'm running a game for these 2 guys, and one of them was like just looking through their spells. They've come across a carriage where there's 3 dead bodies and 3 guards investigating, and they're sort of talking to the guards, and they're like, oh, well, maybe we'll help you out with your investigation. So first thing he does is speak to dead and gets information from the dead body. And the guards are like, okay. Yeah, cool. Gave information. Fair enough. And he's like, maybe I'll just bring these people back to life. And I'm like, you want to reanimate the dead? He's like, yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Which literally means you create a zombie. So in front of the town guard, they create a zombie, which is an evil thing to do. So they end up, I'm like, just so you know, the guards will be upset about this and will probably attack you.
Yeah, this is necromancy in a public area. Like, are you really sure you want to do that?
So instead of helping solve the crime, they killed the town guard. So that was fun.
Good job, murder hobos.
Good job, kids. Yeah. They'll learn the consequences. It's okay.
Yeah, there are consequences to your action. They're going to spend a lot of time in jail and trying to get out of jail and all sorts of things, but they'll learn. It'll turn into an adventure at some point.
One day.
All right. Well, I think that's our episode. Stuart, anything else going on? Anything else cool you're working on? Anything to share?
Yeah, I am working on a little project that I don't think I can talk about yet. It's a larger project with a larger group of people. There's about 30 writers and artists and stuff working on a large project for the DMs Guild. So that's just started this week, which is really cool. And then I've also started working on another piece of work with another writer from the DMs Guild. So that's cool. And then I've also got my own stuff that I'm writing. So all my writing is super busy at the moment, which is awesome.
Wow.
And Court of the Cross Keys is still available. You can pick that up now on DMs Guild. And you can find me on Twitter at Stuart Writes.
Yeah. And you can go listen to Committee Quest, which is a thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Committee Quest. We're finally recording next weekend. We are recording another block of episodes, and we've set a schedule. So we'll hopefully be able to finish up we will definitely be finishing up the season 2 by the end of the year, which is awesome. So I'm excited for that. This weekend I'll be planning for next weekend's game. So it's awesome.
Nice. Cool. Congratulations. I'm glad you guys are
started.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Go listen to their adventures. It's good times. Lots of fun stuff. Stuart's a great DM, so I think you guys will enjoy it. Let's see. What am I doing? I've got all the shows on the all of my Lorecast shows are all now live different nights of the week. So this is our Wednesday night show. And of course, I've got other shows different nights of the week. Thursdays are the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Saturdays are the Cyberpunk Lorecast. If you're into tabletop RPGs and you haven't played Cyberpunk, or if you're into maybe new games coming out this fall and you want to see maybe some details about Cyberpunk 2077 and things that we're chatting about there and some of the lore behind what's going on in there, then go check that out. Cyberpunk is a really fun tabletop RPG if you're into Dungeons and Dragons and you want kind of a different setting with a little, kind of tweaked rule set that's made for like dark future stuff. Yeah, very cool. So go check that out Saturdays, and then
it'll punk you like push your it's really fun. It's different to D&D. You sort of push your luck a bit more, and it's a good game.
It's more deadly. It's more dangerous. The stakes are higher and the world is more difficult. Even though things can get rough in D&D, this world is like you're fighting the corporations, and everybody else in the world is bigger and more dangerous than you are.
The numbers are against you.
Yes, very much. But it's very cool. It's definitely got its own vibe. And then Mondays are the Fallout Lorecast. Let's see. And then we also do the Fallout Hub on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. But most of the shows happen here at twitch.tv/robotsradio at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So come join us for those. And chat, thank you for being here with us. It's always good to see you guys. I love your comments while we're talking about this stuff, even when it goes off the rails. And any of your thoughts about some of the things that we bring up. If you guys would like to discuss them, you've got ideas for future episodes, you have questions for us, any of that stuff, you can show up and chat with us live, or you can come to the Robots Radio Discord and chat with us there as well. You can also follow us at DND Lorecast on Twitter. So all sorts of fun ways to get a hold of us. And and Chef, you're going to sign up for the Patreon right now. That's amazing. That's awesome. Welcome to the Patreon. Chef. You are number 2, officially number 2. Oh, and I didn't mention this before. The slots for people who are going to join us in our adventure every month are limited. They're limited to 5. So it's a little bit larger than a party you would normally have, but 5 people to join us every month. Once those slots are taken, they're gone. So it's a very limited thing. And each month, if somebody falls off the list, then the opportunity comes for somebody else to take that spot. So we're going to have an adventure that may even have kind of a revolving door of characters. It's going to be interesting. We're going to play with it. Yeah. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have you on, and we'd love to be playing Dungeons and Dragons with you every month. All right, guys. That's it for this week. Until next week, we're going to talk about hobgoblins, and stay safe out there on your adventures. We'll talk to you later. See ya.
See you, everybody.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.